From Carolla One Studios in Glendale, California, and Gina's house, and Brian's house, this is the Adam Carolla Show. Adam's guest today, actress Connie Nielsen. With Gina Grad on news, Bald Brian on sound effects, and we'll talk to the founder of Liquid IV, Brandin Cohen. Plus, Dave Dameshek's here for good sports, and now he'll fight for you. You don't even have to leave the couch. Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get it on. No choice, but got a mandate. You get it on. Thanks for tuning in. And thanks for sharing. Right, Gina Grad?
That's right.
Handball, Brian.
Don't do that.
Oh. You know,
So sad.
we need Burt Reynolds in a time like this, if you really think about it, you know? He's a guy. Burt was one of those guys. There are certain categories I have for certain people, celebrities, politicians, and people like that, which is I don't need them for anything. I just need to know they're there. It's like they're around. It's like when your dog gets really old and it just sits in a basket by the foot of the bed and that's all it does. And the days of you taking it to the park and throwing the piece of driftwood into the ocean, long gone. But you need to know they're there. And Burt's
dog's not adding much. Same with Burt. They're not getting any out of it. But
the dog didn't start in Boogie Nights, Brian.
Right.
Well, that was many years. That was many decades ago.
But I do need I need to know that Burt's in a basket somewhere near the foot of my bed. Well, now he's near the foot of God's bed in a basket. Right. And that's Burt. And this is starting to sound like Sesame Street, so we should move forward.
You think he's in heaven?
You know, I'm trying to think. He's had a few marriages. On occasion, he let his fist do his talking. He had a little attitude. He had a little regard for the law, at least from the movies I've seen. You know, he either had little regard for the law or he was the law. But even when he was the law, he had little regard for the law. So there's a theme.
What if he got to the pearly gates and God only knew him from his movies?
Well, how else
no
would
perception of his normal life?
How else would he know him? He's wearing his Trans Am windbreaker. He's got his black hat on, and also
or he's totally in the nude, laid out on a chaise lounge for Playgirl.
Yeah, and I think it was like a bearskin rug he was laid out on. But no, I believe we have to pick the era of Burt Reynolds that we want to present to St. Peter. And look, it's no different than my Porsche 935. I'll be honest with you. That Porsche 935 in 1979, it ran as the Hawaiian Tropic car and at Le Mans with Paul Newman driving it. The next year, it became the Apple car. It's awesome looking. There's a lot of people that are into Apple, and it's the only car that was ever sponsored by Apple. And a lot of people go, you should put it back to Apple. It's the same car. You could pull off the Apple. The year after that, it ran in like some other livery, Red Roof Inn or something, Bobby Rahal, one Daytona in it. I, as the owner of the car, have to pick the best, most appropriate livery for the car. And for me, running at Le Mans with Paul Newman driving it is the way to do it. St. Peter has to do the same thing with Burt Reynolds. There is Deliverance Burt Reynolds, like young, you know, before the hairpiece Burt Reynolds with the bangs combed down, kind of
Smokey and the Bandit.
His Brian, I think, is kind of locked out.
Brian's video is frozen, but I think we can still hear him.
So there's that Burt Reynolds. There's wearing a pretty much a sleeveless.
I'm here. Huh?
Yeah, a sleeveless.
You're just frozen.
You're frozen. There's a sleeveless wetsuit Burt Reynolds.
What?
Well, he kind of wore a sleeveless wetsuit top in Deliverance. If you
yeah, you're right. Okay.
It was a weekend like hunting diving expedition. Like they were going like for the wilderness to like camp and
Yeah, right. So there's that Burt. I don't want to present that Burt. Too aggressive, too virile. Ladies, hide your daughters. You know what I mean? Not that one. Then there's Gator Burt Reynolds, the movie he was in the 70s. Jaws was in that movie, by the way, Brian, from 007.
Richard Kiel?
Yep. Then there was Smoking the Bandit, Burt Reynolds. See, he's wearing a diver's top. Then There was a later Burt Reynolds. There's Boogie Nights Burt Reynolds. We're not going to present that one. I would present Burt Reynolds.
Well, Oscar nominee.
Sorry, the phone.
Brian, you sound
Brian,
wasted.
you're breaking up again. Sorry. And Frozen. I would say Burt Reynolds from the movie Stick. Stick. You can look up the movie Stick. Although it was kind of like Stick, like Schick or something. We'll look it up. Yeah, from like 1981. That's the Burt Reynolds I'm going to.
So you want to do deep dive Burt Reynolds?
Deep dive Burt Reynolds.
Okay.
All right. I had a lovely encounter with my mom and stepdad the other day, which made me realize why I don't do a lot of visiting with them. And I always love sharing it with you guys. I realized there's a weird and very negative gene. As we know, my grandmother was sort of evil as it pertained to her kids and her grandkids and stuff. She just said bad things about them,
Right.
which is an interesting wiring for a grandma, but fine. That's who she was. Brian's rebooting, I think. So here's my point. That's who she was. So now, sadly, she passed that along to her her daughter, who became my mom, and she possesses many of those traits as well. And it's weird how it manifests itself, and it's also interesting that everyone is taking everything to the grave. So, my mom's
can't teach an old dog.
My mom's 87 years old. I just signed the do not resuscitate papers before we had this exchange.
Before it was too late.
Before it was too late. So we had this exchange. So we were sitting out in the back patio where my grandfather and grandmother used to sit back in the day. Now, I'll tell you one thing that you guys don't get to experience, which is my mom either lived in my grandmother's old rental house for free, and then when my grandparents died, she moved into their house. So when I sit with my mom in the back of her current house, it's a place I was sitting at when I was 3 years old, in the same spot. Like you can... Yes.
And soon all this will be yours.
Yeah, so special, the memories.
Yeah, so I'm sitting back there, and it's weird. You're going, oh, yeah, Grandpa used to go work on that, and he'd built that, and he hung that, and we fixed that. And it was like, that's all it was. But we were sitting under this awning, this big patio. Max Apat will probably show you a picture, though. He just ran out of the room.
There we go.
Yeah, I built this patio awning thing. Now, my grandparents were in the back of this little house, and they had this little itty bitty, like a hand dug pool. And during one of the earthquakes, I know when it was. It was 94. 94, we had that second earthquake.
Northridge.
Yeah, Northridge. In 94, the whole thing fell over, and the whole awning just toppled over. It was on these 4, 5, 6 legs, these sort of Grecian-looking posts, and the whole pillars, and the whole thing just fell over. I can show you. I took a few more pictures of it, Max Apat or whoever's in there doing it. And so my brother-in-law at the time, Christoph, is a German architect. And my German architect, Christoph, designed this sort of more modern style, European style setup that would incorporate the old Grecian posts. And I was tasked to build it. I didn't really have jobs. I sort of always had half a job, but I came over and built it. And it was interesting. It was kind of a light design, used 1x5s or 1x6s up there, and not big 2x4s and chunks of roofing, and just did some interesting stuff. And so we're all sitting under there now 25 years. It's been 25 years, 26 years since I built it. And I looked up and I looked around and I said, now keep in mind, Christoph is not a family favorite because he and my sister got divorced, and it was because he wasn't a great guy. So he's been down the road for about 8 years. So the only people that are sitting there are me, the person who built the awning, my sister, who had the not-so-great divorce with the guy who designed the awning, and then the parents are the stepdad and the mom of the girl who didn't have a great experience with the guy who designed the awning. So I looked up at some point. I said, the awning's holding up pretty nicely. It looks good. And my mom said, oh, that's an old picture of Max Bound. I'm not sure why you should put that picture in.
We're curious to see if this was the same place because of the you can see the pillars and the wall.
No, we just put an old picture up. It's actually a different part of the room. We can see my mom being super pissed off and passive aggressive back in the day.
With Sonny and Natalia at the table.
That's me and my sister. And there's some old pictures of the back of the house somewhere. But anyway, Max Bound. So I said, the thing's holding up pretty nice. Looks pretty good. And my mom said, yeah, Christoph did a good job.
Yeah.
And everyone sort of nodded and agreed. Everyone nodded. And I said, yeah, Christoph designed it. And they said, yeah, he did a nice job designing it. And everyone just sort of sat there and talked a little bit more. And then my sister, now you have to understand, when you are this way, everyone around you gets indoctrinated. There's never one, it's a cult. No one ever goes, hey, what the fuck, bitch? You got the guy who built it sitting right here. Now they just go, hey, did a good job. Meanwhile, no one there likes Christoph, but okay. He then pointed, I think my sister kind of pointed to the pool motor enclosure, which I built as well, that you can find, Max Zapata. It's like the first picture. You'll see it. And it was an interesting design. It wasn't like, hey, a piece of plywood slapped up on the whatever.
It was like cool slats.
Yeah, cool slats. I don't know how the pictures work, Dawson. Is he doing from the other room or? Oh,
Kalen's throwing them up.
I'll just throw up the first picture. Anyway, you can see it. And it's kind of cool. And then my sister said, yeah, that's the same kind of fence that Christoph designed, our old house in Silver Lake. And yeah, it looks pretty good. And so everyone was saying, yeah, it's a nice design. Yeah, Christoph did a nice design. Yeah. So I said, as I am at some point, I'm actually confused. I'm actually confused. What's going on with the pictures there, Dawson? How does that work? Can we do that? Okay. Then why when I ask it, does it? All right. It was this enclosure. Kind of interesting. It's got a hat hanging on it now. We'll put the pictures up at adamcarolla.com. So I actually got confused. And I said, did Christoph build this? And you can take the pic down now. And they said, no, I don't think they built it. And I said, yeah, I built it. I actually built this. And they went, yeah. Christoph did a nice job at the design. And I thought, oh, wow, this is it. I mean, we're dying. There's no more. There'll be 2.5 more of these conversations. But then I also thought, how is that process? What do you guys think the process is? I know the process is you can't give any praise or any gratitude or anything to anyone but I am sitting underneath the thing I built when I was 30. Why is there not one voice, other than my own, of course, who goes, hey, I can see the way you trimmed it out there, or the dado or the rabbit cut or the joinery or the way you let that in. It looks good and it's still holding up today. Or that's a testament to your craftsmanship or something. Why is that off the table? Why? And is there another situation in another family where someone could sit under something that was constructed by the then carpenter and now comedian and simply talk about the divorced husband who's been exiled from the family and heap high praise upon him and his abilities to design?
No, it's aggressive. You think it's incompetence or what? No, that's an aggressive act. That's an act of emotional family terrorism.
Yeah, you nailed the process. Obviously, it can't give anyone any credit for anything. God forbid they get a big head. What I'm impressed with is how your mom was able to lay waste to everyone there with a single comment. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like, you did this, you did that. It was like, hey, Christoph should get some credits. Like, oh, that hurts you. That hurts you. Perfect. Well done. Efficient.
It's kind of insane. It's also, the part that's bizarre about it is everyone drinks the Kool-Aid. It's not like my sister raised her hand, and it's not like my stepdad raised his hand and goes, this guy built all this stuff. And then, is it intentional? Do they even know it at a certain point? Or is it just a mode, a setting, like a default setting, like they're constantly in this setting? Do they even know what they're doing? Because it's mathematically impossible not to physically bring up the person who built the structure who's sitting under the structure with you, right? Isn't that?
That's pretty rare, yeah.
It's a default setting they're in?
That they've always been in. And it's weird that your sister didn't say anything, because that's a 1-2 punch, because she's not a fan of the parents, from what I understand. No, of her own parents. Mm-hmm. And she's not a fan of the guy they're praising. So she should be the one before you to be like, whoa. Why are we talking about that schmuck? And my brother did this.
That takes years of conditioning and molding.
It's you get indoctrinated into it. I experienced this many, many years ago when we're sitting around the dinner table with grandma, the out-of-state the couple in from Texas visiting, and everyone around the dinner table, while my grandmother was explaining to me I was big in high school and bursting out of my clothes, and no one would say I played football. So eventually, it's weird when you have to defend yourself because you think somebody's going to bring up All Valley football player. Nobody brings it up, and eventually I end up diving in and screaming at everyone. Right.
You're forced to brag.
Right. I had to defend my football. I had to defend my carpentry, but I did. But it also is weird that at a certain point you start drinking the Kool-Aid, and I built this thing 26 years ago. I was actually having to think, did we build it together? And then I realized, no, he's not a carpenter. He's an architect. He drew it out on a napkin, and I fucking built it over the next 6 months. God damn it. All right. Brandin Cohen is on. Yes.
There you go, bragging again.
Yeah. I would have accepted a dual billing on the marquee. The guy we don't like who did almost none of the work, and then the guy who's here who we do like who did all of the work. I would still accept a dual billing. I got no billing. Brandin, are you on?
I'm here.
Oh, hey, man. Good.
Hey, man.
Good to speak to you. Sorry, I was screaming about my family.
No worries.
You grew up out here, right? SoCal?
I did. I'm a SoCal native.
You had a golf scholarship out of high school?
I did. So my whole junior life, I just wanted to be a pro golfer. That was like my only focus, and I worked until I got the college golf scholarship. And then my whole goal was to be a pro golfer. And my senior year of college, I had a handful of injuries, and I was sort of burnt out. It was bad timing. And I was like, what the hell am I going to do with my life now that I've spent the first 21 years focusing on this thing that's not going to happen?
Is golf one of those things, I don't know, is it analogous to playing the piano when you're young? Like you can get really good, and then if you stop for a while, you can still kind of play piano better than most people at the party. Is that the way it is with golf?
Very similar. Yeah. Like I stopped for a long time, and now I still get out there and I can play. And I think it's one of those things too, like piano, if you start young, you can get better faster than if you start later. It's a lot with golf. It's just a lot harder once you start later. You have a lot of bad habits and stuff like that.
So the story with the Liquid IV, which is interesting, which is you worked with the Arizona Diamondbacks and you were in sales, but you were kind of watching the players and seeing how they, I guess, unique for Arizona, one of the hottest places to play a sport in. And you were like watching these guys and how they rehydrated.
Yeah, so I became friends with a few of the guys on the team, and we're same age. I just got out of school. I didn't really know what I was going to be doing, and I started talking to the guys down in the dugout in the clubhouse before the games, and they were drinking Pedialyte, which I thought was kind of silly that they were drinking a drink that was designed for little kids when they had access to the best products in the world. So I started asking the trainers and the nutritionists, and they explained this science called oral rehydration therapy, which is essentially when you mix sodium, glucose, and potassium at a really specific ratio with water. It helps water absorb in your bloodstream faster. So once I started studying and learning about this, it was mainly used in underdeveloped nations for people who would attract diseases like cholera, and their digestive systems would get totally racked out. And it's like if you or I get the stomach flu and you can't hold anything down and you're really dehydrated, we'll go to the hospital and we'll get an IV put in our arm because it's the only way to get the nutrients and the hydration right into your bloodstream. But in these underdeveloped countries, they didn't have access to medical attention like that. So this really simple solution, sodium, glucose, potassium, and water, was clinically proven to help about 3 times as much water absorb in your bloodstream. And so, back in 2013, I was like, what other products are leveraging this science that was deemed one of the best medical advancements of the 20th century? And there was nothing out there. And I thought, what if you could make a way healthier version, take out all the crap that's in these sugary, chemical-filled sports drinks and other stuff like that, make it healthier, but then also put a cool, adult lifestyle brand around it. And we got some really smart scientists involved, and now you talk about it on your show, and the rest is history.
Well, the thing about Gatorade is when you become a parent and you see all these kids drinking Gatorade, you go, ugh, what are they doing? There's so much corn syrup in there. But also, think about the Gatorade bottle. Think about how many of these plastic bottles are out there and how unnecessary it is. You could literally, you don't even need some spun aluminum bottle. You could just get one Gatorade bottle, put your kid's initials on it, put the liquid IV in there with the water, shake it up, and the kid would get 10 years use out of the bottle, and we wouldn't have, an island the size of Texas in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
I know. We're giving these things out in most of our orders now, so that way people can use our sticks, put them in there, and we're actually working on right now a biodegradable stick that completely disintegrates after a certain amount of time. And so sustainability is huge for us. But yeah, Adam, you hit on it. It's just crazy to think how many of those plastic bottles we're going through, giving unhealthy drinks to our kids.
So I'm kind of curious. I've always been kind of curious about the IV, and we know there's businesses in Vegas that'll stop the hangover with the IV. What is the absorption rate of the nutrients of, let's say, drinking something that was mixed up with water versus getting an IV versus something like your product? How could you break that down a little bit?
Yeah, without getting too sciencey, think about it like hydration is all about uptake to your cells, not just intake. So when you drink a bottle of water, your body only absorbs a small percentage of it. A lot gets wasted. Let's just call it 25% of the water gets absorbed and put to use. The rest gets wasted. You go to the bathroom, you excrete it out. When you drink it with an ORS solution, which is what liquid IV is, you're going to be absorbing, 2 to 5 times as much of the water because of the sodium and glucose. It pulls it into your digestive system before it runs all the way through. So when you hear stuff like, to be properly hydrated, you need to drink 8 to 10 glasses of water a day. The reason is because you're not actually absorbing a lot of that, right? So with our product, you're absorbing a lot more of the water you drink. Now, when it comes to an actual IV, again, not my total specialty, but that is the most efficient way. You're literally taking it intravenously right into there. But as close to you can get to that is what our product does. So we try and be the orally less invasive, cheaper, more normal functional beverage way of getting the water and the nutrients into your bloodstream.
If you're dehydrated or even not dehydrated, and let's just say you drink a 12-ounce glass of just tap water, and your body absorbs 25% of that or something, and your body absorbs 4 ounces of that or 3 ounces of that, and the rest you just pee out. if you then drink another glass and another glass, will you still absorb that percentage and eventually get that much more hydration in you, or does your body stop absorbing when you sort of flood it?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a little, there's a lot of like, let's call them, it's individual to people's bodies, right? So it's hard to speak super generally about it. But I mean, the more water you drink, the more you're going to absorb eventually. The whole idea with our product is it makes it more efficient, right? So you just don't have to drink as much water to get the same hydration. But, you know, if let's just say you just worked out, or you just went on an airplane, or you just had one too many cocktails the night before, your body's really craving the water. And so it's gonna, you're gonna be able to absorb more of it. And then at other times, it's different depending on your body composition and where you're at with it. But yeah, I mean, overall, the whole idea is water, you drink water in order for it to get absorbed, in order to feel the effects of it. And the most efficient way to do it besides with an IV is with a oral rehydration solution, which is what our hydration multiplier is.
Is it better to drink? I know I've always hear this, but I'm kind of curious. Like, there's commercials now. Sadly, we're running Pedialyte commercials telling people it's okay for Papa to drink the Pedialyte. It's kind of a wink and a nod to guys who are home drinking too much and getting hungover. Drinking, I should say, hydrating before a good night of drinking versus hydrating after a good night drinking. I always hear it's better to do it before or do it in an ongoing fashion.
So to be honest with you, I've heard all three. I think the bottom line is that the main cause of a hangover, it really is dehydration. You can hear a lot of different things, but the reason you feel so cruddy the next morning is because your body is just simply getting dehydrated from the alcohol. So the time I feel it the most is if I've had a couple of drinks and I drink, I'll drink maybe one before bed and then one in the morning. That's typically what's worked for me in the past. But if you go read like Amazon reviews or on our website, people have all sorts of different routines that they use in terms of helping recover from a night like that. So I wish I had a more concrete answer, but there's so many different sort of use cases in that regard.
I imagine this is going to be a big market. I mean, this is something that didn't exist or barely existed a few years ago. I think it's going to be kind of the wave of the future, especially, again, with all the Gatorade bottles and caps and everything kind of rolling around the sea and everywhere. So for you, how does it work? Because I think most people listening, I think everyone has an idea. They go, I have an idea for something, but that's where it ends. They can't get that idea off the ground. You're young. You're working for the Diamondbacks. You're seeing these guys drinking Pedialyte. You're thinking, I could do something. What's your move?
Yeah, I get like young entrepreneurs now ask me that, like these college kids and stuff. And I think it's a fine balance, right? Like you don't want to just go do something without a plan, but there's also a lot of people who will make a lot of excuses as to why they don't have enough money right now, or they have a good paying job, or there's a family reason, or there's just a million reasons not to start. And what I always try and say, like truly starting, like is the momentum you need to like accomplish your wildest dreams. Like I went back to LMU and I said, hey guys, I have this idea. And I brought them a few other ideas, and the dean of the business school, he goes, well, that's stupid. That won't work. And with this one, he said, this is pretty good. Like we'll give you $1,000 from the school and you get 5 students to work on it for the semester. And so that was enough to get going. We got some really great like nutrition scientists involved. I got in one Whole Foods in Venice in 2015, and I would just sample and demo the product every weekend by myself until, I started hearing like moms coming up and saying, wow, I've been looking for an alternative to traditional sports drinks. Like, this is so great. And before we knew it, after a month, we were the top selling item in that whole body department. And that was sort of how it started. We had an idea. We saw a need in the market. Once we heard customers saying how much they loved it. We're like, we got to figure out how to scale this thing, you know?
When LMU seeds you the money, is there a weird thing where they have some sort of ownership over the product, or is that clean and done and you're the owner?
Yeah, in that case, it was like a grant from the school, and it was a way for us to give the students a project to work on. So they didn't take any ownership, but then we did a small family and friends round of funding, probably about a year later, which is where we did give away some ownership, some equity in the company. But LMU has been super supportive. Like the funny story is, when I was my senior year, before when I sort of stopped playing golf, I didn't know what I was going to do. I went to the dean of the school and said, can I please get in the entrepreneurship program? I think I want to be a part of this. He goes, Brandin, you don't have any of the right prereqs to get in this program. And I said, I went to his office 3 or 4 times, and he goes, you didn't send me an email. You actually came into my office. I'll let you in this one class, but just don't let me down. And this was in 2010 when the Haiti earthquake hit. And we ended up, in a 1-month period, we got over 20,000 meals sent to the people of Haiti, got all over the news, a bunch of press. And it was the first time I was like, my soul was lit on fire from something besides sports, right? So the long story short is, I actually won Entrepreneur of the Year my senior year at LMU, and I wasn't even supposed to be in the program, which is kind of funny. And so when I went back there, I think I had a little bit of cred because of that, where they were able to get me going, get me off the ground a little bit.
Nice. And I would also think weather disasters and natural disasters would be a great place to send Liquid IV.
Huge. So, I mean, just what's happened recently has been one of the craziest, sort of transitions in my whole career with COVID hitting and stuff. We sponsor, we call it sticks in hands. We like to get product in people's hands. When people try it, they end up loving it and becoming a customer. So we had big partnerships with like Coachella and Stagecoach and Super Bowl and iHeartRadio and college teams, and all that just was done, right? And so immediately my first reaction was, we call it CTW, Change the World. It's like our True North mission. We thought, how can we help these frontline responders who are going to save our lives? And this is like this, I'm talking about like in February, March, like right when it hit. We started getting all these requests from people on the front line saying, with the protective care limited, they couldn't even drink enough water during their shifts. And so they asked for some of our product, and we said, sure, like we'll send it to you, of course. And then, we have an energy product, which is helping them, stay energized on their shifts. And then when they would get home from work, they were so riled up from, just life and death situations all day, that our sleep product helped. And so we started putting these kits together, and we put up a landing page and put out one post on social media, and it went totally viral. In 1 week, we got over 3,000 requests from hospitals. By the end of April, we have sent over 2 million sticks to the front lines. And that was all product that was going to be used at, these events. And what the craziest part is we were able to help so many people. We get these incredible stories from these nurses, and we feel like in a small way, we were able to be a part of it. But the craziest part is like, we shifted from a totally different thing. We turned our events team to a COVID response team.
To a triage team.
Triage to help. And in turn, we got more people found out about Liquid IV for us doing the right thing than us doing some other marketing thing. And so it just goes to show, and it gives me chills thinking about it. It's like doing the right thing is just like the right thing to do,
I think I'm going to try that next year and see if it works for me. Liquid IV.
Put it in action.
LiquidIV.com. And if you use the code Adam, you get 20% off anything on your first order. It's good stuff. I'm drinking it now, and I always travel with it as well. Thanks, Brandin. I appreciate you coming in and telling us your story.
Really,
of course. Thanks for having me on, guys. I love listening, and I appreciate you having me on.
Our pleasure, and I love your product. All right. So
thanks, guys.
Connie Nielsen is going to join us soon. She's from Gladiator and Devil's Advocate, Wonder Woman. I think she's just one of the perfect women from Wonder Woman. Which
right.
I'd like to be cast as just perfect something. Also dated Lars Ulrich from Metallica for 10 years, almost 10 years. Speaks 8 languages. They have a son together. Very interesting. Gina, let's see, we got a phone call up there. You saw an ice cream truck.
Yeah, there are some businesses that deem themselves essential. Because we were on a walk yesterday, and it was just a ghost town. We're over by Colfax and Laurel, basically. And there's a really nice little neighborhood in there that we're walking around, and it's quiet. There is not a soul on the street. And then coming barreling down some residential side street, and I think there's a picture for you, is the quintessential rundown, beat up rape van selling ice cream, playing sort of atonal Christmas music. And there's a couple pictures. And once you see the closer picture, look, it's also for sale.
Yeah.
And look at how those stickers are just weather beaten and sun beaten, worn. You can't even make out where it says "Stop for Children," and it's just playing the creepiest in minor key "We Wish You a Merry Christmas," and not one child, not one human being came out for this thing.
I don't think people really fully understand Los Angeles. The ice cream trucks are custom vans from the 70s with weird sleeper camper tops on top of them that have been retrofitted to be ice cream trucks. And it is the saddest tableau ever. It's like faded pictures. The music is, it all adds to the sadness of it. And there is no, Mr. Frosty, no guy with a bow tie and a white cap on. It's probably an Armenian Hispanic thing, probably for the most part. It's like middle-aged guys smoking and sitting in a beat-up van. And by the way, that van is not roadworthy. That I can tell you right now, that thing. First off, if you, I've got some pictures of some of those vans. If one of those vans ever entered the country of Germany, it would be met at the border and it would be dismantled and buried in the ground. That's, if you went to a place that had rules, that van would not be able to be on the road. I guarantee you, if that van could get to the speed of 40 miles an hour and lock up the brakes, you'd see one puff of black smoke from the front right tire, and the van would immediately start pulling hard to the right and capsize. They're not roadworthy. They're scary as shit. I got a picture of Sonny and Natalia in front of that van when they were 5 years old. That van's
it's for sale.
It's for sale too. Okay. I don't know how it works, but I do know when my buddy Jimmy Kimmel and Adam Perry Lang opened their restaurant, APL, on the West Side, and I said to them, where's the walk-up window? I thought you guys were going to have a walk-up window that you could hand sandwiches out for. They go, the city won't let us open the window because we don't have the blower fan that wouldn't let a moth or a fly in. So it's like every time you open the window to hand out a sandwich, positive air force, positive air pressure pushes out so nothing can come flying in. And I was like, well, why can't you just hand out the sandwiches anyway? And they said, no, we can't do it until whatever. So
and
again,
what we wouldn't give right now with all these restaurants closed to be able to walk up and get something from APL and walk to our car.
Yes. So once again, a lot of rules for those who play by the rules. If you've declared yourself a bomb pop outlaw and you're going full drumstick rogue and you're just out on your own, evidently
frozen toast felon.
That's right. There is no sanctioning body for people who want to sell frozen treats to your kids. Also, in a world where vans and kids and strange vans and your kids running up to strange vans don't mix, these are the strangest, scariest vans there are, but they're carrying ice cream.
Can you imagine the inside of the van?
Oh, I can't imagine what the smell is like coming out of the inside of that van.
It's got to be just a cooler in there, right? Packed with ice. I mean, they don't have like a refrigeration system.
I have no idea. I'm just saying it seems don't get me wrong. I don't like over-regulation, but this seems like it's not regulated very closely, and it involves your kids. All right. Let's see. Connie Nielsen is on hold. We'll take a quick break and talk to that great actress right after this.
It's time to check Adam's voicemail.
Hey, Matt. Traveling eastbound on 26 in Olympic, about to do a left on a red right here in the name of the 8th. Let's do it. Check my rear veer. All right, and we're out. Oh, once again, man, I love your call. Been doing it for quite some time now. Have a good day. Out.
You can leave us a message at 888-634-1744.
Connie Nielsen is on with us. Inheritance is the name of the movie. It's available Friday on Amazon, iTunes, and on demand as well. I saw the trailer. I did not see the full film. I got it pretty late last night, but I saw the trailer and it looked very intriguing and scary as well. Thanks for coming on.
Nice to be here.
Let's talk about you. Why do you speak 8 languages?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I come from such a small country that if you want to be understood or understand other people sort of outside of your own, you got to speak more languages than one.
Yeah, but 8, isn't that kind of showing off? Don't you think you could have got by with 5?
I know. I am a little bit of a show off that way. And I'm a little bit obsessive as well. And I kind of just like languages.
So you're Danish, right? And at some point, how does it work? You realize that you have an interest, a love of acting, or did you just want to travel, or what were you doing when you were 18?
So first of all, my great-grandparents and my great-great-grandparents had movie theaters.
Wow.
My great-grandfather was a director as well, made his own comedy movies, like little short comedy movies that was still silent movies. My mom had her own summer political review every summer. And I started doing skits and sketches on that review when I was 15. And it was a great way for a shy girl to overcome severe social anxiety by, being thrown onto a stage in a bathing suit at 15 and kind of just learning to go with the flow and hoping that people would think I was funny.
Here's what I've learned from interviewing thousands of actors. Either they come from a family who did acting and were actors, or they didn't. That's what I've learned.
That's the only two options. But
there seems to be...
It's a good way to narrow it down, Adam.
Well, there's no through line. You talk to some people and they tell you, you talk to Jeremy Piven, it's like, oh, I was friends with what's his name, and he had the school and his parents had the school, and
right.
And I'd go there and I was always into it. Or they just go, my dad worked at a radiator flushing place and he didn't even know what acting was, and they still end up at the same place.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there's no through line. Maybe with acting maybe with everything we do a lot of did your parents do this, or did they encourage you to do this, or did they expose you to do this? Because
was this a way to piss them off?
Yes,
yeah.
Your parents,
rebellious.
But not your parents. They're happy about your choice,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, they're very happy with it. I think my mom, up until, she died a few years ago, but she was really proud of me, that she was.
And you said you had social anxiety, or you felt awkward.
Yeah, I grew up just crushingly, just desperately shy. And I just knew that was probably not going to be a lot of fun. So I kind of really worked on overcoming it. But I have to say, the way I was then is really the way I still am. I still get social anxiety, and I still feel uncomfortable in certain social situations. And I just then know how to just roll with it and just go hey, I don't feel great right now, but it's in my head. I just need to overcome it.
What do you think shyness comes from. Some kids are shy. Some kids are not shy. You can have two kids. One kid could be outgoing. The other kid could be shy. I feel like they're sort of born with it. I'm not sure. There's things you can do to overcome it for sure, but it just seems to manifest itself in certain kids. And I don't even know if it's shy. We call it shy. Maybe that's just a polite term for the social anxiety or whatever it is. But and then other kids walk right up to anyone and say anything at any time. And I don't know if it's, again, maybe it's the theme of today's conversation. I don't know that it's connected to anything.
It's a good one. I never actually asked myself where it was from. And you are right. I mean, my little brother was like not shy. Like he literally was like the star of the universe from the get-go, right? And I'm the oldest. So I don't know. Maybe it's some kind of consciousness that some people have and some people don't. And that consciousness makes you hyper aware of so many things all at once.
Brian?
Speaking of no through line, it's funny because think about actors, like we all know the actors or performers who are just on, you know what I mean? And they're gregarious and they're full of life and they just are born to be on the stage. And then how many, we know, Philip Seymour Hoffman and Robert De Niro and those actors who are just so shy. And so when they're not acting, they're just not, made for the camera. And it feels like you have anyone could achieve this thing, whether you're shy or not, I guess.
Yeah, but I also think it's like, I think for a lot of actors, acting is a kind of therapy. Like, you get to overcome or like move beyond your own limitations by experiencing these other characters, these other lives. It feels somehow like therapy to me.
Well, I'm trying to think because when I would do sketch comedy, the people that were very good at doing characters were pretty quiet at the after party. Sort of a kind of a Jim Carrey syndrome, where there's many actors where they're so big and they have so many characters, but they don't have them. And then they're the guys who don't really have characters. There's guys like Jay Leno. Jay Leno's just Jay Leno all the time, but he'll never transform into a character. He's just Jay Leno. So
I think that's so interesting. That thing about, because I have, I've worked with Robin Williams, for example, who on 1 hour photo and, just somebody who between takes and, in between scenes was just like basically so entertaining and riffing constantly and constantly working on new material, right? Like testing his, whatever zingers, one-liners and so on throughout the day, right? But then once he was done, you could just see that there was like this, okay, now I'm about me, now I'm turning in back to this, and then that persona was not there anymore.
Were you his obsession in 1 hour photo?
Yeah, that's right.
That was a good movie. It was like a small Robin Williams movie, but a really good movie. And I remember watching it, and it's kind of flattering to be a weirdo's obsession in a movie.
I don't know. I don't think women feel like it's fun or flattering to be anyone's obsession, to be honest.
Yeah. I get it.
You don't think so?
Well, it kind of all depends. If you like the person, like I've always said, the creepy guy at the office is the creepy guy at the office, and nobody wants that guy to say anything to them. No one wants to say nice dress or your hair looks good from the creepy guy. But then there's cool guy from the office, and when that guy says it, it's taken a different way. So it's kind of who delivers it. It's the way I always. We're now looking at Robin Williams looking kind of creepy in that. He was great in that role.
Yeah, he was really amazing. He was really wonderful.
He was what I would call gifted, I think.
Yes, I agree. So gifted.
Did you feel like you could get to know him?
I actually did get to know him because I live in the Bay Area, and I got to know him and his wife Marsha and his amazing kids, and just really love them so much. Just love the kids too. Just really great kids.
What was Russell Crowe like to work with on Gladiator?
You know, he's such a gifted actor, just so extremely gifted. And I was just so fortunate, I think, on that film to get to work with just literally some of the most incredible actors on the planet, from various generations and from various cultures. And they were all like really unique and wonderful. I mean, if you look at who was on that film, like Richard Harris, David Hemmings, Oliver Reed.
Legends.
Was that?
Legends. Yeah.
Just legends. Yeah. And you know, when I was, for example, doing the death scene with Richard Harris, like Richard would sit up in between the takes that Joaquin and I had, and I was like crying for the scene and just trying really hard to focus on crying, and I was worried that all this sitting up and telling these really fun stories that he was telling me about him and Peter O'Toole on tour back in the 50s in the UK, that would interfere with my ability to just have these true emotions. And you know, it didn't. And on the contrary, it was like he just so endeared himself to me with all of these stories that actually, when I did cry, you know, the next 2 minutes later, it was like, oh my God, I'm so sad this wonderful person is gone, you know, because he was like real to me, you know, he was wonderful.
Did you know what you had or what you were a part of during the filming of that movie?
So, I mean, when we started, I remember Joaquin and I were talking about the fact that we were trying to sort of like guess, is this going to be like some weird sandals and toga film that people are not going to see? And then I remember we were just saying, okay, wait, so we got the guy who created the world of Blade Runner. And that world was so present. Like you could feel that world, that culture, that almost history that was in that world. And we were saying, you know, probably that's what he's gonna do with ancient Rome, you know. And then I think that we were all so deeply invested in the characters and in the story. It was such a tight and emotionally sort of like impactful story, and the way that it was unwinding just kept on heightening the tension, and we could feel that while we were shooting. You know, that there was like this heightened tension on the set, and this joy to enter into this juicy scene, you know, one after the other. So maybe we didn't think of the outcome, but we loved every part of the process, even though it was difficult and hard. I mean, sometimes we would get rewrites that morning, you know, 3-page rewrites that morning that, you know, you had to learn by heart and then, you know, get into.
That's funny you mentioned the tough production, because coincidentally just yesterday I was watching a documentary on the making of Galaxy Quest, which was being made by the same studio at the exact same time. And they said in the documentary, thankfully they were working on a movie called Gladiator at the same time, which had a lot of problems and a lot of issues. It obviously turned out to be a fantastic movie, but Oliver Reed died, like a principal actor died on set or died during the production. That's like one of the worst things that can happen. There was all sorts of delays, blah, blah, blah. So the studio was focused. But Adam, back to your point of knowing what they had, the studio was so invested and knew they had a really good potential product. They were totally focused on Gladiator, and they just kind of left Galaxy Quest alone.
Yeah. So they were allowed to do whatever they wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. Like they were so invested with Gladiator, we could do whatever we want.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and it turned out to be a little gem. Galaxy Quest.
Yes, it did. It was such a great film. Really great film.
In a way that I don't know what genre that film would be in. I guess just comedy, but it's a hard movie to. It's a movie.
It's a great movie.
You wouldn't think you'd like it as much as you did when you see it. And especially sometimes, Tim Allen is starring in it, and he's super likable in it. So let's talk about Inheritance. This is a thriller. It's I don't know. Is it a horror movie or thriller horror?
No, it's a thriller. It's definitely a thriller. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's got Simon Pegg in it.
Yes, another comedian. Starting. Doing something really dramatic here.
Is Simon Pegg? I saw the trailer. Is he the? Well, I guess we can talk about it because the trailer's out. But is he the long-haired gent that's in the wine cellar?
It's right. He is the long-haired gent in the cellar.
He is not recognizable.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they did a great job.
He lost like 15, 20 pounds or something like that for the role.
I didn't know that.
That's what I had seen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, that fat boy had been running for quite some time.
Well put.
It's a reference to a movie of his. Hey, Connie, want to hang out? And by the way, the movie, it looks really good, and it looks like they didn't spare anything on the budget. I mean, it looks really well shot. Where'd you shoot it?
We shot it all kinds of places, but it was in Georgia, I think. It was in Georgia. Yep.
Oh, is Georgia like doing stage stuff in Georgia?
Some stuff in stages, and then the rest, I think. Oh, was it Georgia? I can't remember.
What do you know about going back and starting to reopen and shoot again? Do you have projects lined up? Do you have any dates?
Yeah, I do. And I think one of the things that people are working the most on is, I think the movie industry could really benefit from some kind of COVID insurance setup where we can start shooting, but have like some kind of support in case we get hit with COVID during a shoot, because that's the only thing that I think is holding us back. I think we are able to set up protocols and processes by which we can minimize, infection. I also think we can test if tests are becoming more available now. We would be able to test people and then basically go into a camp situation and stay in there until we're done, right? I mean, there are ways to shoot these films. So I think the only thing that's really holding us back right now, is, especially in Europe, is really who's going to insure us when we do.
Right. So there's kind of two sides of any business. There's the sort of get back to business side, and then there's kind of the legal side. And a film, they have to insure everybody. And it's like if a guy's drinking too much or doing too much cocaine, then he's not insurable, then he can't make the movie because they're scared he may leave 3 weeks in and we can't find him. Or they have it, I've told you guys, they have the Herpes Doctor. She's the... She's the doctor that you see before you go to start a TV series or film, and all you guys do is talk about herpes. Because if you get a herpes sore breakout, date, you got you have a 30-day shoot, and you get a herpes sore day 11, everything's got to stop for a while. So it's
or you got to write it into the plot.
Adam, right. I never saw that doctor there, so I don't know. I mean, maybe it's like.
Adam, maybe just you had a herpes doctor.
I don't know. I've never seen that.
They called it the Adam. They called it the Adam Doctor.
I don't think she goes by Herpes Doctor. It just seems to be the gist of the conversations you have with her.
I see.
So I'm trying to think if it used to be that if you started a TV series, you had to go see this doctor, and she had all pictures of celebrities. They'd airbrushed out the herpes. She had all the.
No, I don't think I've seen her. No.
Well, I'll give you your number off the air. Not that you need it. Now, here's my point. But there's an insurance element. So if you start a production and somebody gets sick and has to go home for 3 weeks, that's a major issue. So it's an insurance. It's an insurance thing as well as a safety thing. And I never really even thought about the insurance part of it. But, yeah, that's the way it's going to work. So do you have projects lined up or any tentative dates, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, we're right now we're working on a beginning to sometime in July start date. I've talked to other producers in Europe where they're also saying that they are restarting in July. So I think everybody's just looking at the situation. Everybody's watching that curve, right? Everybody's just waiting to see, where are we at? And then coming up with protocols that keeps everybody safe, once we do start, because it's got to be super well thought out so that we minimize risk at all angles, right?
Well, and I mentioned this on another show just in terms of sitcoms, but it would seem that it's going to affect the way the story actually plays out. I mean, you're going to, intimate scenes or fight scenes or stuff with a lot of contact. I wonder if we're just going to be seeing less of it because they don't want people breathing on each other and they don't want them standing that close to each other.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility that's going to happen too. But I also think that the testing part and then the isolation part, like if we shoot in isolation and we've all been tested before,
you're in your bubble.
Yeah, I think somebody actually called that like the porno situation where
we talked about that. Yeah.
Yes. So where basically everybody gets tested before, and then everybody brings that test with them, I guess. So who knows exactly how they're going to do it, but yeah, I think that's probably where we're going. Testing.
And just to clarify, because I may have been hallucinating, but Lily Collins, isn't that Phil Collins' daughter?
Yes, she is. Yes.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
She looks excellent in it.
She's wonderful.
She really holds her own.
Yeah, no, she's wonderful. She's really wonderful and talented as can be. She's amazing, and she also is just such a hard worker and really humble kind of gal. Like just awesome
Very
person.
Cool.
Yeah.
I wish I was Phil Collins's child.
Yeah.
I think life would be better. He's also just sort of universally cool. He doesn't come with a lot of baggage, affable. No one ever said, Phil Collins, that douchebag? Ugh.
No.
Never been uttered. And he did the one thing, and he possesses a talent. I know you speak 8 languages, but guys who can drum and sing.
Yeah.
I am so jealous of that. It's amazing to me.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you got a guy who can drum and sing. Yeah. Oh, look at you bragging again. That's right. Lars. I forgot about that. Wait, did Lars drum and sing or just drum?
No, as far as I know, Lars does not sing. He is a great drummer, though.
Yeah, but he can't drum and sing like Phil.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a rough one. That's a tough one to follow, I have to say.
Don Henley, that guy from the Romantics, all the greats.
The guy from the Romantics. Oh, Don Henley, right?
Yep.
Henley. It's amazing that you can separate those two activities and do them simultaneously. I'm amazed. I'm amazed that people can fall asleep while driving, and I'm amazed that people can drum and sing.
Both a great talent.
Yes, both amazing talents. All right, let me hit Geico here. You're sharing. Geico would like to share a little with you. You're sharing all your home haircuts and dance moves. Geico would like to share with you 15%. That's right. You're not driving as much as you used to, and Geico understands that. They want you to be a partner for life with them, so they're going to give back 15%. Go to geico.com. That's geico.com, and see if you qualify to get that 15% and keep that 15% at geico.com. All right, Connie, you want to do a little news with us? We'll take a quick break. We'll come back and do that. Want to hang in?
Sure thing.
We'll take a quick break. We'll come back with the news and Connie and Gina and Bald right after this.
Give me the news with Grad. News with Gina Grad. Breaking viral, all those crazy Trump tweets. Give me news with Gina Grad. Trouble in the Middle East. Celebrity drunk meltdowns. Need news with Gina Grad.
The news with Gina Grad.
Hi, have some breaking news right now as we record this. I believe we touched on this on the show, but just to give you an update, tattoo artist Daniel Joseph Silva, he's from the tattoo show,
Ink Masters.
Yes, thank you. He has been charged with murder of Corey La Barrie. He was the 25-year-old YouTube star who was killed in a car crash right here over in Valley Village. And prosecutors just announced this. Silva's 26. He faces one count of murder in the case, which stems from a Sunday evening crash that resulted in the death of his passenger, which was La Barrie, in Silva's McLaren sports car. And from what I remember of the story, I think it was La Barrie's birthday, and they had again, this is just from my recollection, they were coming from some sort of party or event, and it accidental, obviously, but killed the passenger. And
he's being charged with murder.
Charged with murder. He could face 15 years to life in state prison, according to prosecutors. That's the maximum possible sentence.
And Lori Loughlin walks the streets.
Terrorizing all of us.
Well, wait a minute. He must have had alcohol in his system, right?
Because it was a drunk driving. I read it was a drunk driving.
Yeah, certainly not meditated.
Yeah, but no, what I'm saying is if he was sober and lost control of the car, he wouldn't be charged with murder. I think the alcohol is what gets him into that area. And I'm not sure
why. I'm
just
reading this as I'm reporting it.
They have vehicular manslaughter. I wonder why. It's got the word vehicular right in it. And I'm not sure why they don't use that one.
One of two things. Either they're quickly trying to get this out because it's reportable at this moment and maybe missed a detail or two, or there's something that Garagos is going to have to explain to all of us in terms of what separates those things.
Well, I do know that if you've had like prior DUIs or something like that, that can up the ante. And I would bet there was drunk driving mixed with maybe a prior, which then can get you from vehicular manslaughter to murder. If I can kind of hear Mark Garagos in the back of my head. But
listen to you getting your honorary degree.
Well, I've been spending a lot of time with the guy, and I have no idea whether I'm right or not. But if he's sober and has no prior DUIs, he should not be charged with murder. But there's a bigger problem, which is people getting rich fast and buying supercars. And people don't realize these cars are hypercars, these McLarens, these Ferraris, many McLaren, many Ferraris, Lamborghinis. I mean, if you look back to when we were kids and there was a guy with a Mustang that was all souped up, or a guy with a Corvette that was all souped up, and you thought that was a fast car, or Ferraris of even our day when you were a kid. Those cars would go 0 to 60 in 5.5, 6 seconds, 7 seconds. These cars are 0 to 60 sub 3 seconds, which might not sound that fast, but you take what a Mustang or Corvette or a Ferrari could do in the 80s and chop that number in half and then some. That is breakneck fast. These cars have 600-700 horsepower, and sort of the Kevin Hart situation. The people that are driving them are not qualified to drive them at all. They just get in them. They would never. It's essentially a weapon, and you don't have to be licensed, especially licensed, to get the same license where you could buy a Prius, can buy you the McLaren, and you can just drive away in the McLaren. I mean, if in fact you have the money. Yes.
That is a great point. Like, we have to have a special license for motorcycles and for trucks.
Right.
Like for big trucks, right? Right. Yeah. And those are, as you say, like literally just in a different category in terms of potency. And I just think that is a great point. Like, I do think that if you're getting a sports car that has like way more weight and will behave very differently than, even like a great Tesla, it will still, that's just still that other step up to a McLaren or a Ferrari. So I agree with you. It's almost like you should have special training for driving that kind of car.
Yeah. And to that end, what I didn't mention was, according to the reports, he did try to flee from the scene, but he was stopped by some onlookers, and they obtained these legal documents from TMZ, from the Metro. It says the Ink Master star, quote, did unlawfully and with malice aforethought murder La Barrie. So how they're going to prove that, I'm not sure, but that's what it says in a legal document. A forethought. That's a new one.
So he's just driving recklessly, got into an accident. The guy in the passenger seat died, and there we are. It's happened a lot. Yeah.
It's also crazy that, like, we joke on the show about how, once we got these devices in our pockets that can answer any question, that should have been the end to all the arguments. But here we are arguing more than ever. Like, it's crazy that there's still drunk driving in the age of Uber and Lyft. Like, you would have thought that that's going to be the end. There'd be no more drunk driving accidents, or certainly, a fraction of them. And
brakes that stop for you, but not in a car like this.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, the problem is no Uber drivers driving a McLaren, so you gotta slum it back to your house.
Even Uber Plus.
And also, it's not like drinking or taking drugs makes your prefrontal cortex more sort of efficient. It's like
far from it.
You're not going to be controlling your impulses very well during those situations.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's definitely developing, and we'll check back in about that. So President Trump says he's taking the anti-malaria drug hydroxychloroquine to protect himself from COVID-19. He told reporters this week that he's been taking it for a couple of weeks, and despite FDA warnings of heart complications, Trump said a lot of good things have come out about the hydroxy. A lot of good things have come out. You'd be surprised at how many people are taking it. I'm taking it. So, maybe he is, maybe he isn't, but he's announced that he's taking it preventatively.
Maybe he doesn't want to be wrong.
What?
Well put.
Yeah, I mean, look at him. He's in good shape. He's not dead.
Oh,
well,
please.
Not according to Nancy Pelosi.
I guess.
How is he in good shape? Where do you get that from? That's crazy.
He's in bad shape. He's healthy, but he's not in good shape. I talked to Dr.
We
Drew about
don't know.
this.
I don't trust anything that comes out of his doctor's mouth. I mean, how do we know? I don't think anything that doctor says is real.
Well, you can't trust a doctor with a ponytail.
No.
Is his doctor the old guy, the other guy, or does he have a new guy?
I thought he's the ponytail guy. What's his name?
Who's the guy? The guy was like the young scout leader guy.
Yeah, he looked.
I thought it was Ronnie Jackson, wasn't it? Wasn't it Ronnie Jackson, the handsome?
Now.
Yeah, he had like a young, good-looking scout leader kind of guy. From
there was the rock and roll hippie guy before.
Oh yeah, I like that guy.
Ronnie Jackson.
Oh, how do you know Ronnie Jackson?
I know everything.
I couldn't name either one of the guys. All right.
Me neither.
He's on it.
But did you hear what Nancy Pelosi said about him?
Yes.
She said he was morbidly obese.
Yeah, that love affair.
I know.
Real.
But he is morbidly obese.
In his category, yeah.
I'm glad you said that, Adam. Like, that's not the least bit controversial. Like, the guy he's very fat. Even his ardent supporters would admit it.
It's controversial that she said it. It's not that it's not true or not.
Right.
I think.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
She's, pun intended, playing the Trump card. That's exactly what he would say about anyone else. So
yeah,
he calls people names all day, and she's gonna get into the ring with him, and it's going to be a fireworks.
I don't think it's wrong when you're just stating fact. And then what he usually does is to not state fact, but to twist something into something horrendous and demeaning, and then bandy it around and repeat it over and over ad nauseam, right? That's what he does. And I don't think that she's, insulting anyone by stating a fact,
stating his comorbidities.
The simple observation.
Yeah, except for she's the one who tore up his speech behind him. So unfortunately, it's coming from that person who tore the speech up on camera. So I would assume she was making a point.
That could be seen as mean.
It's still true. It doesn't mean it's not true. It's not that hard to get to morbidly obese. It really isn't as difficult as we think.
Maybe the morbidly is a little bit weighted. Yeah.
What do you have to do to get to morbidly obese? Like, I'm 6'2". I'm 200 pounds, basically. How much do I got to put on to get morbidly obese, and see if Dr. Drew can get me some hydroxychloroquine? I may be making a move here. And look, think how much bigger Trump would be if he was welcoming national championship teams and giving them all the Arby's and fast food in the White House. But yeah, how much
you need 40 more pounds.
40 pounds.
Oh, yeah. That's not too bad.
Here's how crazy the Trump presidency is. You mentioned the stack of fast food. That feels like fucking 40 years ago. I totally had forgotten about that.
It does feel like a long time ago.
When was that? I don't even know.
I'm sure 2.5 years ago.
Last year.
Yeah, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. I don't know.
I cannot keep track of time anymore. And it had to do, I told you guys, with the Oscars. I was asking, when are the Oscars? Did we have the Oscars? Did I miss the Oscars? Like, one thing this lack of routine has done is made me lose my relationship with time. We've all had that thing where you it's Monday morning and you're not sure what day it is. Like, there's a little bit of that.
Yep. It's happened yesterday. It's called temporal disintegration. Oh. And everyone's experiencing it.
When you were a kid, it was like that's what the middle of the summer was. You just didn't know what day it was. You couldn't experience that schedule anymore. Fast food buffet at the White House was January 2019.
Jesus.
Clemson.
Year and a half, not even.
Not even, yeah.
So let's stay on the snack tip for a second, because nearly 50,000 people have purchased prepackaged airline meals, which are available for home delivery now. There's this company, and it's kind of a cool company, called Imperfect Foods. They sell the surplus of grocery products like misshapen produce and things that are too ugly, that people might not buy at the grocery store, but they're perfectly fine to eat. They're just a weird
restaurant.
flavor. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So,
restaurants buy that stuff.
Right. And it's funny, there's a restaurant downtown and one of their specials is the Ugly Bowl, because it's all from the misshapen stuff. And so a company called Imperfect Foods sells this stuff. They ship directly to your door. But this month, subscribers to their service discovered that $9 JetBlue snack packs of, the mixed cheeses and the cherries and the crackers and all that crap. The Imperfect Foods company is offering those snack packs for $3 a pop. So the CEO of the company said this was one of our first COVID-19 food waste recovery opportunities. We could only take a fraction of what this airplane meal supplier had. A lot of it has to be tossed just for, spoilage and that kind of thing. Some of it they actually apparently sell to food banks, which I did not know you sell things to food banks. But a lot of these snack packs, they're just selling them at a reduced price because why waste them?
Can I say this, speaking of JetBlue and all these packs these food packs, which we all understand is better than the old days of sitting in coach and getting the crappy whatever. Now they have these boxes, it's better, the cheese or whatever it is. Right. But here's what I think they have to do. I think they have to have one menu for the front of coach and one menu for the back of coach, where I am, because I get my heart set on that hummus cheese offering, the Middle Eastern offering. And by the time they get back to the plane, they're like, oh, we're all out of the good shit. Naturally, you're out of it. That's what everyone wanted who was before me. And then you got this like kelp and a rice patty and a handful of cashew lean, and it's like it's all the same price. It's just you don't get what you want, and you've been looking at the glossy picture of the cheese and the hummus and the fruit, and you go, oh yeah, it's going to be good. Have a new disappointment menu for the people in the back of the plane. Like, you shall not be getting any of this. Yes.
Call it the soft landing.
The soft landing. That's right.
But Adam, here's my question. Like, why are you sitting in the back of the plane? Because I gotta say, like, that's where there's the most noisy. It's where the bathrooms are. Like, wouldn't you want to have a seat up front?
Adam has a really wide chasm when it comes to where he sits on a plane.
Yeah, I do. I've flown privately a lot. I've sat in first class a lot, and I've also sat in like the middle aisle in the back of the plane.
I'm still talking economy here, but just a tiny bit of like, when you check in, you can actually predetermine where you want to sit mostly.
Well,
or
I'm gonna. I want
to bust your
hymen.
Yeah.
You're right. I'm going to go full Rosa Parks from now on. I'm moving up. I'm moving on up to the front of that plane. Yeah. But either way, being out of something, I remember staring at a video where they're like, we have Chef Guzman, and he is meticulous, and he's showing me all the stuff he's making. Yeah, the carving station. I'm like,
motion Parmesan.
Yes. Oh, I'm in love with this Chef Guzman. I am going to eat the shit out of his offerings. And then they get to the back, and they got nothing but the cereal with the non-fat milk. All right. Sorry. So they're taking it to your house?
Yeah, it's part of their delivery service. You can order the JetBlue snack pack meals to throw into your Imperfect Foods delivery. And I imagine a lot of companies are going to get on board with that because we always see one and then everybody does it. Mm-hmm. Like there was one market here that I don't think any of us have ever been to, the Northgate market. That was the first one on KFI that we started running commercials for Senior Hour, that you can go shop in the grocery store an hour before everyone else. Now everyone does it. Right. So I'm sure that this will become popular. We have a school that plans on reopening, not online, just good old campus reopening in the fall. And that school is the University of Notre Dame. They're saying, this is from the Notre Dame News, by the way, they're welcoming students back for the 2021 fall semester. 2020-21. Sorry, that was so confusing. Fall semester, the week of August 10th. 2 weeks earlier than originally scheduled. They're going to forego their break in October. They're going to end before Thanksgiving. They're just going to shift everything up according to the news. In response to the pandemic, Notre Dame sent students home mid-March to complete everything online like everyone else. So the plan for fall will include testing for everybody, contact tracing, quarantine, isolation protocols, everything you would expect, social distancing, mask requirements, enhanced cleaning of the campus. But they want to be locked and loaded for the kids to actually show up in the middle of August.
You think they're doing this because they're a religious school? I mean, do you think that's why they're first? Is there something to do with that?
Well, speaking of religious, what was the other school that refused to close and kept collecting money?
Yeah,
Liberty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're on the same plane, but
I think there's something to it, right? Aren't they kind of a religious school? I don't know that.
They're also a private school, and they're very wealthy, so they can really kind of do whatever they want. They're not beholden to a governor or what. I mean, that's interesting. Actually, I wonder if they'd be beholden to the governor of Indiana. That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
Well, either way, kids aren't really being affected by this like the elderly are. So get back to school. I'm fine with it. And if you live with your grandparents, then don't go back to campus.
Well, and that was the thing that, hindsight's always 2020. What we should have said when they were closing all the schools and sending everyone back home, we should have said, keep them there. They're not going to get sick. Chances are they're healthy. Don't send them back to grandma's house or their elderly parents' house. Let them stay where they are.
I wonder if this is just occurring to me, driven by football, because Notre Dame, obviously a huge football school, the only school I think that has their own football contract with NBC. So they're obviously more motivated for that angle, you know what I mean, to get the students back in school and blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I'm wondering.
Well, they're definitely going to make a bunch of rules like they have in high school, like they have in college, where you can't practice early or participate in X, Y, or Z. There's a whole bunch of rules that they have. Even when I played in high school football, like they'd go, you can't be in pads, you can do passing league, 7-on-7. Like they had a whole bunch of, you can condition, but you can't practice football. You can do push-ups and run bleachers and wind sprints. So I'm sure they'll have to adhere to that, but yeah, I think it's something about them being religious and something about them being private as well. But
I mean, in Denmark, schools are open again, and we actually locked down for a month and a half, I think, and schools are back in at work there already now. And we have really maintained and controlled the outbreak super well in Denmark. So I do think that it may not be as fraught with risk as it seems on the surface of it. And it does seem like a lot is lost for people who, like kids who have gone through the hoops to get into these schools, and this is their dream. And that I think the schools are probably trying to find ways to retain their students and to give them what they signed up for and what they paid for.
Yeah, that exactly. Retain the tuition, because it's how do you justify taking an entire tuition when you're learning online?
Yeah.
It's not fair.
Chris, do you have that? I think I sent you an audio clip of Cuomo sort of talking about Chris Cuomo talking about schools and like the dangers of schools.
Yeah,
I don't know if you have that, but
you
I mean,
put it off your phone.
The thing about schools is everyone's freaked out. Not me, but everyone else is freaked out. It's like my kids and schools and kids, and the kids seem to be the only ones who are safe in this entire group. They seem to be the safest. Do you have it? But I was listening to Chris Cuomo. I was watching Chris Cuomo on the news the other night, and he was kind of explaining to the expert why schools were dangerous. But then I realized, if you're my wife and you're sitting home watching Chris Cuomo explain how schools work, my kids are never going back to school. If you have it, you can.
The way you outline what we have to take into consideration in the classroom really is sobering. I mean, it really is the worst of everything. You got the same air circulating, you got the density, you got people close to each other for long periods, you have lots of same surface touching, you have water fountains, social bathrooms, lunch rooms, the transportations. I mean, they really are, the perfect combination of everything we have to look at.
It's the worst of everything, he described it as. Okay, it's hard to send your kids back to a place called the worst of everything. It does tend to slow people's roll. Fucking panic queen, slow it
makes
down.
You think twice.
Yes, Jesus Christ. It's such a fucking panic culture. I'm telling you, there's something you have to worry about. It is indoctrinating your kids into a fear cult. They're all at home now. Everyone is scared. You have no idea how dangerous fear is. Everyone thinks, better safe than sorry. You can't be too safe. You can be too safe. You can cause a lot of damage by being too safe. And there's a lot of psychological baggage that goes along with a fear-based life. Be very careful how much of that you lay on your kids.
Adam, I just want to say, though, I don't know about you guys, but we're all like socially isolating since 2 months here. I'm up in the Bay Area in this house here with my kids, and we've really taken it seriously. And one of the things I've asked, even my grown kids, I've asked them to really be aware of, how are you being of service to your community? In this case, I think it's really important to just see yourself as a potential super spreader, for example. You could be, you don't know, you could be a potential super spreader. And that's not fear-based. That's just kindness. It's just you saying, hey, in case I'm one of those people who can, be sick and not show it even remotely. Like think of Typhoid Mary. She didn't know that she was, carrying the disease because she didn't present with any symptoms at all. And, 49 people, I remember, I think died, because of her. And there are these people who, unbeknownst to themselves, might be sick and spread it around. And the least we can do is just acknowledge that we don't know. And even if we're tested, there are so many different kinds of tests that we still don't have access to. I think that the nicest thing we can do is to protect each other and wear masks and keep a social distance until that curve slows down. And even as it's slowing down, to just, be aware that even as things start open up, we're potentially putting more people at risk. And you just don't know if you're the one who might end up being a spreader of the disease, and it's just a kind thing to do. And I just would love to make sure that everybody feels that it's not just about fear, because I'm not scared. I'm just being kind to my community.
Well, but I'll take that as an answer. I disagree to some degree, which is nothing wrong with being kind for sure. And you have to be responsible. It's like, you have to be responsible when you drive, not to hit other cars on the road. Right. You can kill other people. I subscribe to that. I'm saying the way we present this to the kids and to all of us has a very negative. There's a way to present it that's informational, and there's a way to present it that has a little Disney villain sort of scary movie kind of quality to it, which
couldn't agree more.
We've been doing to our kids, and I just think there's going to be some long-term repercussions of trying to scare. Look, I want my kids to not get into vans with strangers. I want them to look right, left, then right again before they cross the street. I want them to do, I think it's left, right, then left again before. I want them to put on a helmet before they get on their BMX bike. Like, I want all that stuff, but I don't want them to be scared. I want them to be responsible. All right,
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. Those are good parenting rules.
Yeah, I tell my nanny to tell that to the kids all the time.
So he ensures it'll happen.
That's
and
right.
Growing up with Jewish parents, I can't sign off enough on what it does to you psychologically to grow up scared of everything. So you're absolutely right about that, because you're going to get sick. No, don't get it that good. It's everything all the time. And you know me.
Yes,
this is not.
It creates
not
anxiety. No, you're a train wreck.
You're a mess.
All right, let me hit Shady Rays here for a second. High quality shades for far less than expensive brands. Not some big corporation that overcharges. Premium polarized shades. You've seen the commercials for these guys. Built for the outdoors and backed for life. One of the best warranties in the industry. Replacements, if lost or broken for any reason, and lifetime craftsmanship warranty. Most Shady Rays are $48, so half or less than half of what you'd pay at one of these premium places. Free returns and exchanges. You either love your shades or Shady Rays will replace them, and it'll pay to ship them back as well. I got a couple. I got the Aviators, and I put I can't remember which ones I gave to Sonny, but did Sonny ever send you that picture of him wearing a Shady Rays?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were driving down PCH, and all the phosphorus or iridescent
the bioluminescent algae.
Algae was there, and he put his shades on, and he took a picture of it, and said it looked beautiful. Anyway, they're going to provide 10 free meals to fight hunger in America for every order you make. It's Shady Rays, right, Dawson?
Exclusively for our listeners, they gave us the best deal they have to offer. This is a Black Friday level deal. Use code Carolla for 50% off 2 or more pairs at ShadyRays.com. Buy one, get one free. You can get 2 pairs of shades for $48. Redeem only at ShadyRays.com, where you can find all their newest and best shades.
All right, Gina, let's do 1.5 more. What do you got?
Okay. So just on the opening up tip, let's take this a little more national. Tourists this summer are going to find smaller crowds when they travel. So that's kind of a silver lining. The popular destinations, they're going to take a lot of social distancing cues from each other. For example, Six Flags over Texas. You want to go with a wait-free theme park experience. This is what I think the model is going to be for a lot of these places. It's just going to be at 25% capacity. Online reservations will be required, and they're developing an app to book the rides, meaning you can't wait in line. They don't want you waiting in line, so you just pop over when it's your time to ride the roller coaster. The St. Louis Arch, or as we know it, the Utah the Salt Lake City Arch.
Oh, that's right.
Right.
Well,
the gateway.
Are they going to charge you? Are they going to charge you more at the Six Flags over whatever? Think about the volume.
Cost is going to be passed on. And that's a big question with the restaurant industry right now. Will there be a COVID surcharge because you're only allowed to seat at half capacity? That's all, I think, being developed right now. But so, for instance, the Arch, they're going to reduce their sizes to 20% capacity. About 60 people an hour can go all the way up to the top to the observation deck. But you can only be in there for 10 minutes because they have to clean it every time the cart comes back down. Bouncers at German nightclubs, they're going to have thermometers. Partiers over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, they're not going to be let in. Protective masks on the dance floor. I'm sure a lot of people will be passing out. And
how are you going to flirt? That's going to be hard.
You're going to have to learn to smize like Tyra Banks. All with your eyes.
A lot of eyebrow action.
Carlo, they're planning on opening 4 casinos, and they're handing out masks and silk gloves to provide to gamblers. Disinfected slots. Decks of cards will be tossed in the garbage after each use.
Do we really need to protect Do we really need to protect gamblers? Like, isn't gambler?
It's in the name.
It's in their title. I'm a gambler.
Yeah.
I show up. I risk.
I'm just
that.
having this vision of like see-through masks. Like we need to have something where the face is still visible. If
you're absolutely right,
reading,
and they have been developed for the deaf community because they can't read lips, obviously, through a mask. So I think we're going to need to give it to everybody.
Yeah.
Look, if somebody hasn't already invented the Rob Lowe mask, I want one. That guy has
a strong chin,
the best chin, the best upper lip, the best orthodonture in the business, and a hell of an actor. But let's focus on the aesthetic. If I'm going to put on a mask, I'm going with the Rob Lowe mask. And yeah, I could put on a clear one, but that's just more me. I don't need that. And you don't want that either. You want the Rob Lowe mask.
You go with Rob Lowe, I'll go with Connie Nielsen.
Look at that beautiful dog Connie has.
I know. He is a cutie.
Look at that.
Yeah. You want to say hi? Come on, say hi.
What kind of puppy is that?
It is an Australian cattle dog. Say hi. Say hi.
So a herder.
Yes, she's a herder. Look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, baby.
Herding is great. Hoarding is horrible.
Yeah, that's horrible.
It's so little difference right there. You want to live with a herder, not a hoarder.
That's right.
I'm sorry. What is her name?
Her name is Tatum.
Hey, Tatum.
There are places, at least in Malibu, I don't know up where you are, that you can drop off your herding dog for the day and they can go herd.
I need that. This dog needs to be on a ranch. I mean, he's constantly herding us all. I swear.
Where in the Bay Area are you? Because you need some land for a dog like that.
I have a lot of land, actually. It is not enough. They actually even got out today. And then they go for a stroll, and nice people in the neighborhood bring them back. They are just incorrigible dogs. This one is untrainable, by the way, as you can tell. Completely.
Adam has one of those.
Yeah, I have one. Dr. Drew has a couple of. What are his dogs? Those
Australian sheepdogs, I think.
Yeah, they herd everybody around. They push everyone around the house too. Like it's crazy.
It's like she does it with her nose. Like she's constantly like pushing people all the time.
Yeah. Well, at least you get the front side. You don't want them herding with the business end. All right, Gina, one more. What do we got?
All right. Well, this is a question for you. You do a little whip around here. So a company, I can't find their name, a website calculated Buzz Bingo calculated which actor swears the most overall total
on screen, obviously
on screen. Any guesses?
I have educated guesses that are beyond educated because I think I saw this story like a week ago on TMZ. I shall recuse.
Jim Belushi?
Who? Sorry.
Okay.
I said Jim Belushi.
Well, that's a good guess.
Just an overall body of work.
I'm going to go strictly based on volume of years on screen and also a couple of choice selections. I'm going to go with Connie's Devil's Advocate co-star, Al Pacino.
You would be very close, Brian, because most people guessed Al Pacino and Samuel L. Jackson. And most people were wrong.
Oh.
So they studied 3,500 film scripts and find that, Adam, do you know?
Is it De Niro?
Leo DiCaprio was number 2, I recall.
And one of his co-stars was number 1.
What's his name? With the curly hair.
Jonah Hill.
Jonah Hill. The guy you'd never think was the number 1 guy is Jonah Hill.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Ended up taking the top spot for swearing more than any other film actor. Much of that comes from his role in Wolf of Wall Street.
I was about to say.
Contains 715 expletives. And Jonah's characters have cursed 376 times in total. And remember, super bad. He's just the lovable phone dropper.
The
and
Wolf
you're right,
of Wall Street is the most cursing film, right? It has the most cursing.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
Leo came in second because of that movie. After him, Adam Sandler, then Al Pacino, then Denzel Washington, Billy Bob Thornton, probably for Bad Santa, then Seth Rogen, then Bradley Cooper, then Danny McBride.
Wow.
Ginny, you may not know this, but is this like per project? Because Pacino's been at the game for 50 years. Like he's probably logged a lot more. It's got to be like per script or something.
Well, maybe, but it does seem like they're going through, an overall body of work. But I can look into it.
No, it's got to be scripts in the day. It's Humphrey Bogart didn't cuss in any of his movies, and all those guys. So Pacino's been in a lot of movies, but probably not a lot of cussing in many of his movies.
Mm-hmm. I have an answer to that, and I appreciate Adam's thoughts on that. But Brian, I think you may have been right because I'm looking at a bar graph. I'm looking at a bar graph, and it says swears per 1,000 words. So I guess it depends on script length as well.
Because Adam, he did like Serpico and some hard-boiled stuff in the 70s. So he probably, if Dog Afternoon, there was certainly a lot of cursing. So his per
pound
is
per
up
pound.
there.
Well, let's talk about that, because in those movies, like those gritty cop 70s movies, there's definitely was cursing, but in the comedies, there's so much more cursing going on because it's not even really used as cursing. You know what I mean?
It's conversation. It's not to be saved for somebody fighting with another person. It's just how you talk.
Right. Like they pulled it out when they needed it in those movies, but it wasn't part of just a conversation.
Right.
Which is now the new world order. All right, Gina, let's bring it home.
You got it. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news.
That was the news with Gina Grad.
Last but not least, Tommy John, you're working from home. Yeah, a lot of you working from home these days. You're moving all around, up and down. Tommy John knows. Well, that's the new world order. They have their new and improved men's underwear, making it more resilient. It's 2 times more durable. And right now, they got a Memorial Day sale. It's up and going, up to 30% off site-wide. Upgrade to the softest, most durable fabrics you've ever worn. No wedgie guarantee. Best pair you'll ever wear, or it's free guarantee. The stuff is the best. The loungewear is so good, so soft, so comfortable. And the underwear is, well, once you go with Tommy John, you'll never return to whatever your former brand was. It's the best pair you'll ever wear. It's Tommy John, right, Dawson?
Shop the Memorial Day sale at TommyJohn.com and just get up to 30% off site-wide with code ADAM. That's ADAM for up to 30% off site-wide at TommyJohn.com. See site for details.
Inheritance is the name of the film. It's available Friday on Amazon, iTunes, and on demand. You should check out the trailer for sure before then, because I think you're going to be very intrigued. It was a very strong trailer. And support our friend Connie Nielsen at the same time. Thanks for joining us, Connie.
Thanks so much, Adam. This was fun. It was very nice to meet you all and hang out with you this hour. Thank you so much for having me.
Come back.
Thank you.
Will do. Bye, guys.
Thank you. See you soon. Until, you can go to I'm Your Emotional Sport Animal. My new book's available for pre-order right now on Amazon. You can bookmark us and click on through. And YouTube, we got a bunch of stand-up on our YouTube page, youtube.com/Adam Carolla. I'm going to be on Jay Leno's Garage tonight for the new series opening, 10 o'clock. CNBC. And until next time, Good Sports is coming up. Jimmy O. Yang's coming on tomorrow. Until next time, Adam Carolla for Connie Nielsen and Gina Grad and Ball Bryan. Say it. Mahalo.